What's up guys and welcome. You are watching Fazi Fitness.
So guys, channel membership is now live. Link is in the description and the first comment. Do check it out. That would really help support the channel.
So let's start this video with an update of the reigning Arnold champion, Derek Lunsford. Now some fans criticize Derek that he uses SEO in his arms based on no proof whatsoever, just on the observation that he doesn't have any clear separation in them, in his arms, especially the biceps, which obviously shows the lack of knowledge. It's Derek's genetics, and he will never have peaky biceps. No matter what he does, no matter how he trains, he can never have biceps like Nick Walker. But here is a very interesting comparison on how Derek's arms got bigger over the years. So the old one here, that is from back in 2021, when he was competing in the 212 Mr. Olympia. And by the way, he actually won that show in the 212. He won the Olympia that year. And the latest one is from this past Arnold, Ohio, and the Pittsburgh Pro. So the insertions on the muscle groups, they can never change. But this comparison just goes to show us how Derek's arms got quite massive over the past 3 or 4 years. And this is the area where he will continuously put in more work. Because two of the top guys, Hardy and Nick, they both have amazing biceps, amazing arms. In fact, if there is one area where Nick beats Derek, especially in the upper half, more specifically in that back double biceps, that's on those monstrous bicep peaks, which are absolutely bonkers on the mutant. That being said, the 14.5 weeks old physique update of Derek, that is looking very impressive. And we have to keep in mind, he hasn't even started the diet just yet. He hasn't dropped the hammer. He has managed to stay pretty damn lean after a very long season. So will it be difficult for Derek Lunsford to peak one more time, and that too 100%, for this year's Mr. Olympia, considering that he competed at the Arnold and the Pittsburgh Pro? Well, I do think absolutely yes. Peaking one more time obviously is gonna be very difficult. But can it be done? Obviously yes. And the reason I'm saying that is because the same thing happened with Hadi Choopan too last year. He was in that same position because he showed up so on point. At the Arnold, Ohio, he was like picture perfect, but he was unable to duplicate that same look for the Olympia last year. But that being said, Derek is up for the challenge and he wants to make history, and that is by winning 3 big shows in the same year. Next up, we have the most recent physique update from the Legion Sports champion Tonio Burton and the real superstar from this year's Dubai Pro event. So Tonio announced himself loud and clear at Dubai Pro this year that he is no longer quote-unquote a smaller guy for the men's open class, and he's coming to this year's Mr. Olympia with one mission: to improve on his placings from back in 2023 when he placed top 8. And that was the last time he was on the Olympia stage. So he skipped the Olympia last year despite the fact that he was qualified because he wanted to put on more muscle, more mass. And it's safe to say that the time that he took off, that paid off big time. And the great thing about his transformation from last year's Cali Pro to now is that he maintained all his lines and all of his aesthetics pretty damn well. In fact, I think the bigger and more detailed quads, they have enhanced his aesthetics and his X-frame to a degree that 99% of the people, they agree that if there was one placing that could have changed at this year's Dubai Pro event, that obviously wasn't Nathan Diasha and him fighting for the title. It was Tonio Burton against William Bonac and also against Behrouz Tabani, because some people were arguing that Tonio Burton could have won that show. And even him pushing William Bonac and losing to him by just 1 point, who is a true legend of the game, that speaks volume about his true potential and also his trajectory for the men's open class. He's a Dexter Jackson in the making. So that quad sweep on Tonio Burton is looking mind-blowing in this most recent physique update, roughly 14.5 weeks out. And the shoulders are also looking full-blown. So what Tonio needs is more thickness in the chest. He loses some ground in the side chest and also in the most muscular shot. But that being said, he still has got some time on his hands to make some noticeable improvements before this year's Mr. Olympia. So at the Legion Sports, we all thought he beat guys which weren't of his caliber, but he cleared all those doubts at this year's Dubai Pro event. So let me know what you guys think. How high can Tonio Burton place at this year's Mr. Olympia? So one of the biggest rising talent in classic physique, Minagate, or Matthias, apologies if I am pronouncing the name wrong. His 1-year comparison that was posted recently. So he's most likely doing both Tampa Pro and Texas Pro. And there is a massive change in his overall muscularity. His chest was his biggest weakness when we saw him last year. And now we can all see some obvious improvements in that one area. Now some people were saying that he looks a bit behind for 6 weeks out. But as per the comparisons, the man is looking very lean compared to last year when he was 6 weeks out. So add him to the list of those guys who can shock a lot of people this year at the Olympia in Classic. So he was top 9 last year at the Olympia, which by the way was his Olympia debut. And this guy has got some classic lines which are very unique. Since the Olympia, Matthews has done some serious work, and that too pretty damn hard, to make some very noticeable improvements. And we're gonna witness all that on this year's Tampa Pro and Texas Pro stage. I mean, just have a look at his front relaxed pose from last year at the Olympia. He's gonna have bigger and more rounded delts and more volume in the chest when he steps on stage this time. And that is gonna make his front relaxed one of the best pose in that entire classic physique division. So the quad sweep is looking so insane, and only a few guys in that entire classic physique lineup, they have such unique kind of insertions. Now when he turns around, he has got a super bag too. So this is a guy who will definitely be fighting to improve on his Olympia placings in October. So Vlad has been known for being one of the most freaky guy in the men's open division, especially for the last couple of years. So he brought his career's best last year at Chicago Pro, and he placed second behind Muhammad Fada. Unfortunately, he had some visa problems, especially for that European tour, and that is why he was unable to compete in more shows last year. Now, Vlad has made the announcement that he's taking the whole year off, and he's gonna come back sometime next year, bigger and better. Now, I'm not gonna say bigger, because no one thinks he needs any more size. Out of all the physique updates that the IFBB pros have posted, Vlad definitely makes it into that list of those guys who have looked the most freaky in all of their updates. And he was labeled as an IG bodybuilder up until last year when he stepped on that Chicago Pro stage and he showcased his true potential. Now, as big and as muscular Vlad is, the man is still in his 20s and he is guilty of packing size very fast. And in his younger days, he had a very small waistline before he started packing on more muscle and more mass. So he's a pure definition of a grainy bodybuilder with a lot of freak factor. And that is gonna be his calling card when he comes back next year. So hopefully we're gonna see him at Dubai Pro next year. Next up, we have an update from Rafael Brandao. Just because he hasn't competed throughout this year, people have kind of forgotten about him. Also, he got very sick during the off-season, and that did cost him a few months, especially in terms of putting on more muscle and more mass. But Brandao has now been back since the last couple of months, actually more than that. So the last physique update that he posted, he looked pretty damn massive and very lean too. But we all know he's gonna have some difficulty on this year's Olympia stage, especially in the size aspect. Now, in terms of the shape and the aesthetics and being classic, he has one of the most beautiful physique, one of the most pretty physique out there. And we always mention that the weight is nothing but just a number. But in Brandao's case, he really has to come in at the very least 5 to 10 pounds heavier with that same condition that he had at the Arnold Ohio last year, where he placed third behind Hardy and Samson. Now that is a physique that can possibly push for those Olympia top 6 to top 8 spots, but only if he comes in a bit bigger, if he comes in with some additional size. So he was top 8 last year at the Olympia, behind William Bonac. But there are some guys like Regan, Tonio Burton and Nick Walker who were not there last year. And some of these guys, they are gunning for Brandao's spot. Also Brendan Curry, he was pretty off last year, and we saw he did beat William Bonac this year. So Brandao has to bring his all-time best, not just in terms of conditioning, but in terms of size too, especially if he wants to move up, or rather even sustain that top 8 placings. So hit the thumbs up button if you liked the video, and smash the subscribe button if you wanna come back for more. Thanks for watching.